Hey Chaos Crew, Jimmy Chaos here, and today we're going to be checking out the white cards from Streets of New Capenna. And we're going to be looking at them mainly from a limited perspective, but also from constructed on Commander as well. Limited is the format I mostly play, so that's the main way I'm going to be evaluating these cards. Starting off here is the Angelic Observer. It's a 6 mana 3/3 flyer, which is a bit above rate, but it costs 1 less to cast for each citizen you control. So if you can cast that for about 4 mana, you're doing pretty good. 5 mana, you're about average. Anything more than that, you're overpaying for an angel, essentially. Which there are some angel payoffs in the format, but I don't think there's going to be overly enough for that usually to matter. So this, I would say, is probably a medium tier. You probably would play one. You might play two, maybe, but you really need a good number of citizens in your deck for this to really be a good card on rate. Next is the Backup Agent, a 1/1 for a colorless and a white, and when it enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Okay, so you get a bear worth of stats, so 2/2 for 2, so that's on rate, and being able to put the counter on a different creature can come in handy. So this is a fine limited card. It's playable. It's not going to see any kind of constructed play or anything. It's not something amazing, but it's not bad for a 2-drop. Though most of the time on turn 2, it'll just be putting the counter on itself. It is a citizen, so that could have some payoffs, but it's an okay card. It's playable. All right, next up, the Ballroom Brawlers. It's a 3 generic, 2 white for a 3/5, and when it attacks, Ballroom Brawlers and up to one other creature you control both gain your choice of first strike or lifelink until end of turn. Wow, okay, so that seems pretty strong. Either you're getting in with the 3/5, which is pretty high toughness, so it's probably going to survive combat with lifelink and gaining some life, or if it needs to take something out before it gets damaged back, it has the first strike option as well, and it also can target another creature. Yeah, this definitely seems like a pretty solid card, and 5 mana seems like a decent cost for this as well, so I would say that's probably a solid playable. All right, next up is Boon of Safety. For 1 white, it's an instant. Put a shield counter on target creature, which a shield counter is if a creature would be dealt damage or destroyed, you remove the counter instead. And then it lets you scry 1. Protection combat trick. It's okay. Like, these kind of effects are usually kind of medium in limited from my experience, so I wouldn't probably play this, but if I'm playing traditional, it's not a bad piece to have in the sideboard, so that in the removal heavy matchups, you can bring it in to kind of counter what they're going for. So it's maybe an average card, I would say. All right, 1 mana 0/4, the Broker's Initiate, and it is a cat citizen, so there are a fair number of citizens in this color, it seems. All right, so it's for 4 mana and either a green or a blue. Broker's Initiate has base power and toughness 5/5 until end of turn. So you play on turn 1, it sits there and does very little, blocks pretty decently until turn 5, and then it becomes a 5/5. And you have to put that mana into it every single turn. Yeah, this really doesn't seem very good. If the citizen or the cat part of it matters enough, you could justify it, but I think for the most part, you're probably got better things to do with your mana. If you gave it like +5/+5, that would be a different story because you could do this more than once, but only being able to do it once as well, yeah, this is probably not a card you'll end up playing very often. All right, buy your silence for 4 and a white. It's a sorcery. Exile target non-land permanent. Its controller creates a treasure token. Okay, so wide open removal, a bit expensive at 5 mana, but usually for 5 mana, we only see something that would remove a creature in limited with a downside. So seeing this target any non-land permanent, it's pretty nice. Yeah, I think you'd probably play no more than one of these. You probably would play the one just in case. If you're playing traditional, you may leave it to the sideboard and bring it in when you really need it. But it's an average playable. All right, Celebrity Fencer, 3 mana white for a 3/2. It's an elf druid and has Alliance. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Okay, so 4 mana 3/2 is a bit below rate. The ability requires it to stick around for a turn, and then it starts getting bigger. realistically, like even if this was a 4-mana 4/3, you're still not doing great. A 4-mana 5/4, okay, you're getting somewhere. So for 2 triggers to happen, like this has to survive a couple of turns. That seems a bit unlikely most of the time in limited, but in a drawn out game, this can definitely be a stalemate breaker. So I think it's an average playable. It's not amazing, but I think there are worlds where you wouldn't want to cut it. Yeah. All right, Citizen's Crowbar. It's 1 and a white for an equipment artifact. When it enters the battlefield, it creates a 1/1 green and white citizen creature token, then attach the crowbar to it. An equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has white tap, sacrifice the crowbar to destroy target artifact or enchantment, and it equips for 2. So in other words, it gives the creature disenchant on the crowbar. If this format works out where artifacts and enchantments are very important like the last format, then this isn't too bad, especially when it comes down as a 2/2 for 2. So you're already on right there, and you have a disenchantment stick. Actually, yeah, I think even if artifacts and enchantments aren't hugely prevalent, this is worth considering playing just because it's a bear that has an upside, and you can move part of the power and toughness of the bear, so one of the +1/+1s onto a different creature for 2 mana. Yeah, I'd say this is actually pretty solid playable. All right, next up here is the Dapper Shieldmate, and boy, does he look dapper. For 3 and a white, it's a 2/2 human soldier, not a citizen. Okay, so he enters the battlefield with a shield counter on it, and as long as it's your turn, it gets +2/+0. So it's a 4/2 on your turn with the shield counter. 4 mana 4/2 that prevents or damage or destruction once. Yeah, I don't think that's very good. I don't think that would be a card we would end up playing very often. All right, for our first rare of the color, depopulates for 2 and 2 white. So Wrath of God casting cost. It's sorcery, and it is a wrath effect. So each player controls a multicolored creature, draws a card, then destroy all creatures. Okay, so in limited, it seems like it would be an okay card. A lot of the time, you're probably not going to have the multicolored creature because you're probably not going to have a critical mass of those for them to line up with this. So it's really just a wrath to catch you up if you've fallen behind on board, which is good. I would say you would probably play this in most decks. Even if you're playing a creature-heavy deck, there could become a point where like a board stall, or if you fall behind, that this would make sense to play. So I don't think I would cut it even from them. Definitely any kind of limited control deck would love this as well. And this definitely could see standard constructed play. Historic has Wrath of Gods. I don't think we'd see this in Historic or anything older than any other formats older than that, but standard might see this. And Commander would probably see this as well. All right, Alsmith Resplendent, 3 and 2 white for a mythic planeswalker with 5 loyalty, and it is an Alsmith. And +1, choose up to 1 target creature, put a +1/+1 counter and a counter from among Flying, First Strike, Lifelink, or Vigilance on it. Wow, that's a pretty strong +1. Make your creature a little bit bigger and give it a permanent static effect that can definitely have a large impact on the game, so that's pretty good. Let's continue on. Look at the top 7 cards of your library. Oh, sorry, this is -3. So look at the top 7 cards of your library. You may put a permanent card with mana value of 3 or less from among them onto the battlefield with a shield counter on it. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. And for -7, create 5 3/3 white angel creature tokens with flying. Okay, what bugs me about that last ultimate is, why are they 3/3 angel tokens? Angel tokens are usually 4/4s. Consistency wizards, come on. We could have gone with 4/4 angels, and I think it would have just been just as powerful, even if there was only 4 of them versus 5, but hey. Yeah, so you get there, play this, you plus, next turn you plus, next turn you can use it, so 3 turns. That's pretty fast to get to the ultimate, and it's pretty strong. And the -3, yeah, you get to grab a creature from the top 7, so it's like half of a collective company, and the creature gets protection. So in limited, this is definitely a bomb. You would play this for sure. I don't know if you'd splash for it necessarily because of the double white, but if you're in white, you're definitely playing this every single time. And I'm sure we'll see some experimentation and constructed to make this work in some kind of white weenie deck. All right, another rare here, we have Extraction Specialist. For 2 and a white, it's a 3/2 with lifelink, human rogue. And when it enters the battlefield, return target creature with mana value 2 or less from the graveyard to the battlefield. That creature can't attack or block for as long as you control Extraction Specialist. So that's kind of a neat effect. It returns a small creature, but then kind of pacifies, casts pacifism on them until it dies. Definitely you would play this in limited. It would just be like a 3 mana, 3/2 lifelinker right there is a great rate. And being able to bring something back, even though it can't do anything until this dies, is still pretty strong. Yeah, in limited, yeah, bringing back stuff from the graveyard right to the battlefield is generally going to be a strong effect. So this is definitely a card you would play in any white deck you're playing in limited. And I think we might see some constructed play in like a white weenie deck. It can bring back lots of different things on turn 2. Like there's the, what's it called? The Luminarch Aspirant, though I think that's out of standard now, so that would be more of a historic thing. But yeah, standard has other creatures like Selfless Servant, the dog, that you can sacrifice to protect something, then bring it back, and then you can still sacrifice it to protect stuff. So yeah, no, this definitely seems like a pretty strong card. All right, Gathering Throng. For 2 and a white, it's a 3/1. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for any number of cards named Gathering Throng, reveal them, put them in your hand, and then shuffle. Okay, so the Nighthawk, or not Nighthawk, Squadron Hawk effect. We've seen this on many different cards. If you get enough of them in limited, they're great just because of their card advantage, and you can just keep getting more and more of them, but you would need a good number. You need at least 4 probably in your deck to really justify them at all. And a 3/1 stat line for 3, that is below rate, but because you're getting the extra cards, you're paying a bit more, so that makes sense. And a 3/1 is not too bad of an attacker in limited, so I think if you get enough, you would play this, but you probably aren't going to go for it. It's more of a you happen to pick up enough along the way kind of card, then you would end up using them. All right, Gyada, Font of Hope. For 1 and a white, it's 2/2 Angel, Legendary, Flying Vigilance, and it's a rare. So that right there, that would be a playable card in limited for sure, but there's still more text. Each other angel you control enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it for each angel you already control. And it can tap for white that you can spend on an angel spell. Okay, so that effect, you're less likely to hit it in limited, but again, a 2/2 Flying Vigilant creature for 2 in limited right there, that's playable as is. So the extra +1/+1 counters on your other angels is just pure upside. In terms of constructed, there is an angel deck in historic that this would go in well. I don't believe there's an angel deck right now in standard, but if one happens to come out, this would definitely be an important card in it because it's just a very strong angel. Commander players are probably going to love this as well for their angel decks because, yeah, their angels just are bigger and bigger and bigger. All right, Halo Fountain. 2 and a white for an artifact. It's a mythic. So 1 white, tap it, and untap a tapped creature you control. Create a 1/1 green and white citizen creature token. For 2 and untap 2 creatures you control, or those 2 white mana, you draw a card, and for 5 white mana and untap 15 tap creatures you control, win the game. Okay. So in terms of limited, the first effect, that's pretty good. You keep making more tokens, untapping your attacker so they can also block, or untapping a mana dork to use it again, if there are any in this format. I haven't seen a lot. I haven't read the whole set yet. Anyways, so that's pretty good. The second effect in limited, yeah, again, you're probably going to use that a couple of times. So this seems definitely like a limited playable. Now, the third effect, that's more of an effect I think Commander players are going to try and pull off, or maybe some kind of combo-y standard deck. But that in limited, you're never going to hit 15 creatures on the board. And if you do have 15 creatures on the board in limited, you've probably already won the game. So that effect for limited basically doesn't affect, but the other 2 effects are pretty strong for limited, so I think it'll see play because of that. All right, Hold for Ransom. 1 and a white for an aura, enchant creature. Enchanted creature can't attack or block and has pay 7. Hold for Ransom's controller sacrifices it and draws a card. Activate only as a sorcery. All right, so it's pacifism, but the creature's controller can pay 7 mana and give you a card to get the creature back. Now, most of the time when you pacifism something, they're not going to get, like, the game's probably going to be over before they get up to 7 mana, and if all they're doing is reactivating a creature that's become irrelevant on the board, it may not matter terribly much, plus you get another card. So this is definitely removal you would play. It seems pretty strong. I don't think its downside is all that bad. Yeah, I would definitely play numerous copies of this in a limited deck. This would definitely not see any kind of constructed play. All right, Illuminator Virtuoso. 1 and a white for a human rogue 1/1 with double strike, and whenever it becomes the target of a spell you control, it connives, which is where you can draw a card, then discard card. If you discarded a non-land card, you put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Now, this is going to be interesting. This is definitely a powerful card you'd want to play in limited, and because that effect, it just be getting, the creature gets bigger and bigger. You're probably playing a pump spell. It has double strike, so you're just getting in for a lot of damage with this creature, and it's some of that damage growth will stick around. This will probably also see some experimentation in standard, and possibly even, I could see modern decks trying to do this, because we did see clever Lumimancer decks get experimented with, and this feels similar. And also in modern, you can really take advantage of discarding cards to set up your graveyard with things that you want in your graveyard. So this definitely, I think we're going to see some experimentation at least. Whether or not it works out remains to be seen, but definitely in limited, this is a darn good card. All right, Inspiring Overseer, 2 and a white for a 2/1 flyer. And when Inspiring Overseer enters the battlefield, you gain a life and draw a card. Okay, so a 3 mana 2/1 flyers, pretty good rate. And then you gain a life and draw a card on top of that. Yeah, this card is great. You will play every copy of this in your limited deck. Also an angel, if that happens to end up mattering, if you get Yada in your pool. But yeah, this is a great limited card. I don't think it would see play in any kind of constructed angels deck, maybe EDH. But for like standard, I don't think it would be powerful enough. All right, Kill Shot. 2 and a white for an instant. Destroy target attacking creature. Yeah, that's not bad. Normally we see similar effects for 2 mana, so it is a bit higher cost. But for 3, that's not too bad as well. It's pretty wide open with what it's killing. It's not doing 4 damage like we typically see, so you can hit things with 5 toughness that are swinging in. So I think this is definitely a playable card. Bit overrated, but it's playable. Knockout Blow, 2 and a white for an instant. This spell costs 2 less to cast if it targets a red creature. And Knockout Blow deals 4 damage to target attacking or blocking creature, and you gain 2 life. So this is the kind of effect I was saying we normally would see in white when it deals 4 damage to an attacking blocking creature, you gain some life. Like if you're playing traditional, yeah, keep this in the sideboard. If you're playing best of 1, you can consider main boarding this, but the 2 life is not worth the extra point of mana you'd end up having to pay. So keeping 3 mana up for this is really kind of mediocre. I'd say it's a slightly below average card, really, unless you're playing against red, and then it's actually really good. Mage's Attendant, with 2 mana and a white for a cat rogue 3/2. When Mage's Attendant enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 blue wizard creature token with 1, sacrifice this creature, counter target non-creature spell unless its controller pays 1. Okay, so this is interesting. So it's a 3/2 for 3, which isn't great, but then it brings a 1/1 body, which has basically Force Spike on it. Yeah, I think you would probably play this, even if you're just not playing white-blue, if you're just playing mono-white or a white-green deck, which seems to be the direction of the meta for this this set. You still wouldn't mind having this, because unfortunately the creature's blue, but the effect is generic mana. So yeah, it seems pretty good. I would say a solid playable. All right, Mysterious Limousine, 3 mana, 2 white for a rare vehicle, 4/4, and when Mysterious Limousine enters the battlefield or attacks, exile up to 1 other target creature until Mysterious Limousine leaves the battlefield. If a creature is put into exile this way, return each other card exiled with Mysterious Limousine to the battlefield under its owner's control. Through 2. Okay. So when it comes in or attacks, exile up to 1 other creature until it leaves battlefield, and then when creatures put in exile, return each other card. Okay, so it exiles one creature at a time. Yeah, this is gonna create some complex board states and definitely keep your opponent kind of off kilter with what you're bouncing and bringing back. If you have creatures that enter the battlefield and give you effects for that, you can do some interesting blinking stuff. So this is interesting that it hits not only their creatures or your creatures, it hits both. So you can exile a creature of your own that has a good ETB effect. Then when this attacks, get rid of one of theirs, get yours back. Yeah, this is definitely a very interesting card, and you would definitely play it. And crewing for 2 is really very, very low cost. So yeah, it's a very interesting card. I definitely would play it in limited. Probably won't see much playing. It might see playing constructed. It's a weird card to evaluate just because it's kind of a strange sequence of effects. Like, this might end up doing something really, really busted and constructed, or doing absolutely nothing. Time shall tell. All right, patch up. A 2 and a white for a sorcery. Return up to 3 target creature cards with total mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Okay, so you could grab... Let's see here, what kind of... Like in... This is probably not great in limited. Getting back to your smaller creatures, which aren't going to be super powerful. Probably not going to care too much about this. In constructed and standard, again, I don't think you're going to get too much value out of that. In modern, though, like, you could return, I don't know, like a Death Shadow and a Goyf if you're playing Jund. Or I guess those two don't really cross paths in decks these days. There might be some kind of combo creatures you can pull back. Like Devoted Druid and Vizier is 4 mana total, so that wouldn't work. This feels like they might have cut the mana value just at the right point to not make it something that can be totally abused yet, but I'm sure there's probably something I'm overlooking, and maybe commander players can really break this card. But yeah, in limited, no, I don't think we'll be playing that. All right, Rabble Rousing, 4 and a white for an enchantment, rare with Hideaway 5. So when this enchantment enters the battlefield, look at the top 5 cards of your library, exile 1 face down, put the rest on the bottom in a random order. Whenever you attack with 1 or more creatures, create that many 1/1 green and white citizen creature tokens. Then if you control 10 or more creatures, you may play the exiled card without paying its mana cost. Okay, so in terms of limited, you're probably not going to get up to 10 creatures. But every time you're attacking, you make a token for each attacker. That's pretty solid. So I think that you would definitely play this in limited. In Commander, this is going to be absolutely bonkers with like a doubling season deck. And yeah, because then you would just attack with, 5 creatures, immediately go up to 10, get your spell, and it could be something big that makes even more tokens or something crazy. Yeah. I could definitely see this doing some crazy stuff in Commander. It's too slow for Modern, and Standard, it feels like it probably won't make an impact on Standard. But actually, there is a green-white enchantment, or Naya enchantments deck right now. So this might see Standard, but I don't think it will. But I might be misevaluating. All right, Raffine's Guidance. For 1 white, it's an enchantment aura, enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1. You may cast Raffine's Guidance from your graveyard by paying 2 and a white rather than its mana cost. Yeah, in limited, that's fine. It keeps coming back, making your creatures a little bit bigger. Reusing cards is always good in limited. In terms of constructed, no, this isn't going to see any kind of play, not even the auras deck that's going around. There's far better auras, and the 3 mana from the graveyard is just not that exciting. All right, Raffine's a Torment. For 1 and a white, it's a human wizard 2/1. When it enters the battlefield, it connives. So a 2 mana 3/2, if you discard a non-land card, you also get to draw a card. Yeah, that's not too bad. You'd probably play 1 in limited. I don't think you'd want to play more than 1. You really want to hit it on turn 2. You don't really want it later than that. So it's an okay playable limited card. It will not see anything in constructed unless there's something super powerful with getting your graveyard, a card in your graveyard on turn 2, but I don't think this is probably even the best way to do that. Refuse to yield 1 and a white for an instant. Target creature gets +2/+7 until end of turn, untap it. Okay, well that's a defensive card. You know, you attack with something, then you have a surprise blocker who's really tough. Yeah, you could play this. Again, if you're playing traditional, probably keep it in the sideboard and bring it in when you really need it, but it's an okay playable card, I would say, but not super excited, probably cutting it a lot of the time. Revelation of Power. Colorless and a white for an instant. Target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. If it has a counter on it, it also gains flying and lifelink until end of turn. Okay, so we did see a fair number of ways to put counters on creatures, but a lot of them were in the... Well, there was that common guy in the Alsmith, but that's a mythic, so that's not good to rely on. I think most of the time you're probably just getting +2/+2 for 2, which is not great. It's well below rate. So you're probably not going to play this unless you end up in a deck that really is counter-centric and will consistently have creatures with counters. In which case, then this card's pretty good, because you give it flying, get in, and get some lifelink to gain some life back, so... Rumorgatherer. 1 and 2 white for an elf wizard 2/1 with Alliance, and when another creature enters the battlefield under your control, scry 1. This is the second time this ability is resolved this turn. Draw a card instead. Okay, so what's interesting about that is if it goes more than the second time, like a third time, fourth time, you just go back to scrying, and you don't get any more draws from there. But really triggering this multiple times in limited is going to be very difficult. A 3-mana 2/1 with is below rate. It's very easy to kill. Yeah, you're probably not going to hit it twice in a turn to draw the cards. You're just getting a scry. Like, it's okay. If you really need a 3-drop, you could play it, but the double white makes it harder to cast. So I think this is kind of below average. I don't think you'd probably be able to play it a lot of the time. In a constructed world, haven't seen too many elf decks that are white. But I know there is that one elf, Redeem, whatever his name is, and that's a token-centric one, so this card would fit in there pretty well. Standard, I don't think this will see any play in Standard. Alright, Sanctuary Warden. 4 and 2 white for a 5/5 Angel Soldier with flying. Enters the battlefield with 2 shield counters on it. And when it enters the battlefield or attacks, you may remove a counter from a creature or planeswalker you control. If you do, draw a card and create a 1/1 green and white citizen creature token. Alright, well, interesting how it kind of enables itself because it comes with the 2 counters, though you may want to keep those around to protect it. Though it does come with 2, so when it ETBs, you could easily just take off the 1 and then keep the other one around to protect it. So yeah, definitely in limited, this is a bomb you'd play it every time. And in a Commander Angel deck, you'll definitely want this, I would think, because, you know, just... It's another angel, it's a good size one, and it comes with some protection. And in terms of Standard, I don't think this will probably see too much play in Standard. It might see a one of in the Historic Angels deck, but yeah, I don't think Standard's gonna play this. Sky Crier, a 1 and a white for a 1/1, flying lifelink bird citizen, and 3 and a white, you and target opponent each draw a card. Okay, so... In terms of rate, 2 mana, 1/1 flying lifelink, that's below rate. There's a 1 mana flying lifelink or 1 mana. And the ability is terrible, giving your opponent a card and you a card. That's not where we want to be. So this card, yeah, I would just say is, no, unplayable. Unless you're desperate for a flying lifelinker for some reason and ignore the ability, but yeah, it's pretty terrible. Alright, Speakeasy Server. 4 and a white for a bird citizen, 3/3 flying, and when it enters battlefield, gain a life for each other creature you control. Okay, so let's assume you have no other creatures. It's 5 mana, 3/3 flyer, which is about average. And then you have a little bit of upside if you happen to have another creature, which on turn 5, there's a good chance you'll have at least one. So I would say this is playable. Again, 3/3 flyers in limited generally are playable. In terms of constructed, I don't think this would see any play. Swooping Protector, 3 and a white for a 2/1 flash flying, and enters the battlefield with a shield counter on it. Okay, so 4 mana for a 2/1 surprise blocker who won't take damage. It's okay. You'd play it in limited. It's not amazing. It's just an average card. Definitely not in kind of constructed deck. I don't think would play this. And that ends the white cards for this set. So overall, white looking about what white usually is in limited. You know, a couple 3/3 flyers of interaction spells that hit, attacking or blocking creatures, enchantments that pacify creatures. So overall, white seems pretty average, not terribly exciting or out of the ordinary for what we see in white and limited. But it's not terrible. I've seen worse white sets in limited environments. So, all right, well, that wraps it up for this video. So thank you all for watching if you're still with me. Let me know in the comments anything you think I may have misevaluated or what you're looking for, any cards you're excited to try out and play with. And make sure you subscribe to see all the other colors. I'm going to be releasing a video for each one up until before the release. And I think I'm going to be doing blue up next. So again, thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribed and let me know what you thought in the comments.